Hello, everyone. Okay, I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and now I'm finally doing it. Thank, thank myself. Thank myself, goddess. So there we go. Let my will be done, and my will is finally being done. And my will is to tell you these truths. Now, the first thing I'm going to say is something that this is a precursor to all this. It's just a little extra bit that I realized. There are the brothers of the serpent, and then there are the vril, the underground reptiles, the serpents themselves, okay? Now, the brothers of the serpent, they are the human beings. They are what we would call the Illuminati, all right? They are the human interface, that we are interacting with, okay? So, and just so that I can distinguish these videos from each other, I'm going to be fixing myself up and changing stuff around as the videos go on. But yeah, just to let you know that too. But this is the preference. So basically, the brothers of the serpent, the reason they're called brothers of the serpent is because serpent means reptile. Those who have evolved from, reptiles, essentially. Those who are humans, we have evolved from monkeys. The reason there's a missing link is because, as that one book said, extraterrestrials came along, fixed up, there was a massive war. They ended up wiping out, you know, should I go that far back? I don't know. There was a massive war. It ended up wiping out all the life on the earth. There was nothing here for God knows how long, forever. And then finally, an extremely rich financier, this being didn't know who or what, financed this earth being fixed up. So they came along and they fixed up the atmosphere, they fixed up the water, they fixed up the land, they fixed up everything. They took away the radiation poisoning and all these other things, and they made it actually livable and viable. And then they ended up seeding it with life and seeing what would take and what wouldn't. And then after all that time, they finally, eventually, at some point, came back, got some monkeys, left with them, updated their DNA, and then about 200 to 300 years later came back and let all the monkeys that they had updated, made more intelligent, go. Now, out of the blue, these very simple primates knew they knew how to do tools, they knew how to do fire, they knew how to, do all kinds of stuff, essentially do the wheel and whatnot. And they knew how to, they were far more intelligent than the simple primates that were here. Now, there was the caveat to this is that there was initially a race of what we would call dinosaurs that managed to, they were kind of completely separate. Some of them were separate, some of them weren't. It depends. There were some races, is what it actually is, of essentially dinosaurs, reptilian type creatures. We wouldn't recognize them as that were living quite literally in the center of the earth. They were actually created just like us human beings by some other entity, some other alien race, and they were created in the center of the earth. But they were not touched by this war that had happened on the surface. They were not touched at all. They have their own language. They have their own way of speaking to each other, which is, telepathic and whatnot. They have everything. They do have written language. They do have actual speaking, but it doesn't sound the same because they're not built the same. They're just not. And so while a lot of the entities, the animals and whatnot, whatever you want to call them, that were living on this earth were killed off via this, essentially you could call it comet, nuclear blast, whatever you want to call it, that wiped out all the life on this earth and just completely ruined the resources on it. These reptile type beings that were living in the center of the earth, the very center of the earth, they were untouched. Now, the closer you got to the surface of the earth, more and more of them ended up being killed and ruined. But so these reptiles were, for millions of years, living in the center of the earth, evolving. And then this other, you know, entity comes along, fixes up the earth, makes it livable again, makes it viable again. And I don't know when these reptiles ended up popping out onto the surface of the earth, but I do know that for a while there, they were literally hunting us humans and us monkeys and anything. They were hunting on the surface of the earth whenever they would visit the surface of the earth. They evolved in the center of the earth through millions of years. They got very technologically advanced, and they would do all kinds of very technologically advanced things. And they were very, very much, just ahead of us, period. So it's just, how do you tie all this together? What ended up happening is that they actually watched, at some point in time, they actually watched these aliens, essentially, as they saw it, steal some monkeys, put them in the cages, about 20 to 30,000 of them, they said. 20 to 30,000 of them, stick them in cages, stick them on their, essentially, as we call them today, spaceships, and take them off to, they didn't know where. And they started to wonder if these, extraterrestrial beings were ever going to come back. They were thinking no, because 100 years, nothing happened, 200 years, nothing happened, and then around the 200 to 300 year mark, supposedly, I'm thinking it was probably more like the 300 to 500 year mark, suddenly out of the blue, these same beings with their ships come back and let essentially all the same monkeys that they had taken go into the population on the surface of the earth with the rest of the monkeys that are already here. And these monkeys already have knowledge of fire and tools and how to work, and they're so incredibly evolved. And so that really scared the reptiles. They didn't like that. And they really have it stuck in their heads that these beings, these entities, are going to come back again. At one point, they did come back at some point when life got really, really bad for human beings, and they started rapturing people up off the face of the earth. They were rapturing them, but what they were doing is they were taking people who were specifically of a specific DNA trait off. Now, I don't know what DNA trait that is, but they were taking them, and it was because life had gotten so horrific here for human beings. And it was through, political means, social means, that life had gotten so bad, So, and this is about to hit the 10-minute mark. I got almost 2 minutes left. So that's one thing that the reptiles are afraid of, okay? Now, the reptiles used to be very, very nice. They became very, very socially advanced. They became very advanced in not just electronics, as we call it, and electricity, but they became very, very advanced in sound waves. In fact, some of their ancient religions are actually astrology, which is why astrology is still so popular today. They still believe in it themselves. They became very, very advanced, I believe, in essentially what would be considered Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, that kind of type of religion. They became very advanced. They became very religious in that religion, if you want to call it that. It's not what us humans see it as. It's like the West's twisting of karma. The way the West understands karma is 110% wrong, and the opposite of what karma actually means. What karma actually means, if you're part of those religions, are habits. And you don't have to, and you're not breaking free of your habits. You're merely recognizing who and what you are. And you want to break free of being physical of this earth. So that's why they say you have to break free of your habits. You don't have to break free of your habits. You don't break free of who and what you are. You merely recognize who and what you are. And that is what those actual Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism are teaching. West takes it and twists it into karma being an excuse to punish you because you did something wrong. That's wrong. That's a Christian way of looking at it. And I got to cut it because it's at the 10-minute mark. Damn.